Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the spinning wheel of... No, here we go. All right. Whoop, 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 whoop. I sound like I'm trying to sing Gangnam Style, but I'm not. All right. So here's kind of the main idea. So, like anything else, what goes up must come down. All right. And what's wrong with Napoleon? He was really worried about what would happen to his empire after he died. Felt it would fall apart if he didn't have a son. Josephine, his first wife, didn't have a son, so he divorced her and married Marie Louise of Austria, the grandniece of Marie Antoinette. So look, they're bringing back French royalty, who also is from Austria. In 1811, Napoleon II was born. Oh, congratulations. His personality proved to be the greatest danger to the future of the empire. He was so desirous for power that led him to great heights, and it's also his greatest weakness. His efforts to expand the French Empire and crush Great Britain led to Napoleon making three disastrous mistakes. Napoleon made three disastrous mistakes. I'm glad you asked. What is mistake number one? Well, let's just check. Very good. They weren't having kids. Very good. So his one mistake is what's called the Continental System. Remember, Napoleon hated Britain. He hated Britain. So he wanted to stop all trade and communication between Great Britain and the other European nations. All right? So he imposes a blockade. These are little boats, boat. And basically he tried to close all the ports to Great Britain. So a boat would come here from London, hey, I want to sell this to Spain. They couldn't get there because it was blocked. And his claim was that this was a goal to make European economy stronger. Basically, he argued, so long the British have been getting rich while the rest of the Europeans have been getting poor. Hey, listen to me. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. It doesn't work that well. Again, the blockade versus Britain is known as the Continental System. And in other words, keep the money on the continent. Don't let it go to Britain. He forcibly closed all the ports. His goal was to bankrupt Britain. And Europe was basically forbidden from trading with England. All right? Also keep in mind, the War of 1812 is a U.S. versus Britain war. That's going to be a background factor here. But the problem is that I have pudgy fingers and I pressed too far. Now I went back. All right. There we go. Really? There we go. Britain, the blockade was not tight enough. So smugglers kept bringing British cargo into Europe. So they'd get through. Hey, what's that, Elvis? Boom. And they'd get through. Hey, what is that, Jack? Boom. Get through. Hey, what is that, Jim? Get through. Hello, Jack. And they'd get through. All right. Family members of Napoleon, allies, all disregarded the block. They didn't care of the blockade. And Britain says, oh, you want to blockade us? We'll blockade you. And this becomes an epic fail. Because instead of hurting Britain, who does he end up hurting? France. All right? Big mistake. Speaking of big mistakes, here's the problem. Mistake number two. Or as they say in French, deux. Portugal was ignoring the Continental System. Remember Portugal out here on the peninsula. Right? So when he wants to go attack Portugal, what does he have to march through? Spain. The Spanish people get upset. They riot. They partly riot. Why do they riot? Reason number one is Napoleon basically replaced their king with his brother. Reason number two is they're afraid that Napoleon's going to mess with the Catholic Church. We talked about this already. How did the Spanish win? For 6 years, the Spanish peasants used guerrilla warfare. There was no open battles. Small groups would ambush the French, and then flee into hiding. So there was never like this straightaway battle that the French soldiers were used to. There's this sniping, this constant attack. And by the British, they're sending money to help the Spanish. Because remember, France hates Britain. France fighting Spain. So Britain loves Spain because it can help them fight France, especially Napoleon. Some artwork from that time period. In this war, Napoleon loses about 300,000 men. And what happens is people start becoming proud of their country again. I'm Spanish. I'm not going to let them do this to me. What's ironic is at first they look at the French as liberators. Oh, the French are going to help us get our country back. And then Napoleon turns from hero to jerk. Oh, they're going to free us. Ooh, now we want to get freed from them. We talked about the Spanish guerrillas. Germans and Italians all turn against the French. So all of a sudden Napoleon's fighting wars on many, many fronts. Mistake number 3 is his most disastrous. It is his biggest mistake. It's the reason historians say we should study history, because if Hitler had paid attention to Napoleon, who knows what would happen. In 1812, Alexander I, the Russian Tsar, Alexander I, the Russian Tsar, is selling grain to Britain. So money is going from Britain to Russia. Who's mad about this? France. And France and Russia are both competing over Poland, so they're kind of pushing, they're shoving. They're mad at each other. No, you're a jerk face, you're a jerk face. All right? And he marches basically 500,000 troops, 422,000 troops into Russia. As Napoleon walks in, Alexander has his troops marching backwards, and they practice a scorched earth policy. They basically burn everything that could be eaten by the French soldiers. Because the further the French soldiers get from France, the deeper they get into Russia, it tests their supply lines. The Russians have supplies coming from the back all the time, so basically they're making the French starve to death. Here you see it. Blue is the French march in. Red is the French march out. Look at the dwindling numbers. This is a little different. At Polotsk, Hitler basically split some of his troops off to protect his flank. All right? And you'll see that at the end of the war, when the French are marching back, about 30,000 of the survivors from here join only 20,000 survivors here to get the heck out. By the end, only 10,000 of the Russian soldiers make it out. What's the problem? They get to Moscow in October, November, December. What is happening? I'm glad you asked. Because what's happening is it's snowing. And these guys are starving. They're freezing to death. What's amazing is when Napoleon got to Moscow, it was burned to the ground. Why did they burn it to the ground? Because they'd rather burn Moscow than watch Napoleon take it over. The invasion of Russia again. Napoleon marched into Moscow to find it burning into his flames. Alexander destroyed his holy city instead of letting the French take it over. Once Napoleon said, oh God, this isn't going to work, decides to turn back, it's the winter. Russians raiders mercilessly attack the retreating and the very tired French army. So as the French are retreating, the Russians are just boom, 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 beating them. Many soldiers died in battle, died of their wounds, exhaustion, hunger, and the cold. By the end, Napoleon's troops go from about 422,000 to about 10,000. Wow, that's bad. Because he hated them. Good. Two reasons. Brother King, Catholic Church. Good. Good. That hat. Like that picture. So again, we talked about that. I don't know why I put that there. Napoleon's downfall. This allows France's enemies to take advantage of his weakened condition. Austria declares war on him despite the fact that he's married to a noble from their country. Fourth coalition, 1, 2, 3, 4. Burps. All right. So Napoleon loses. Frederick William III of Prussia, an exile and refers to Russia, march in, and they basically march right through France. Napoleon wanted to fight him, but his generals are like, dude, the war's over. We're not going to go fight. So what happens? Napoleon then says, fine, I don't need this army. He goes and recruits another army, but these guys have no training, and they're quickly defeated. By 1814, Napoleon is surrendering. So what happens the first time he surrenders? He agrees to surrender his throne, and he's given a small pension, some money, and is exiled to Elba, this little island off the coast of Italy. So there's Napoleon, right there, okay? What do you notice? What do you notice? He's still near Europe. Keep that in mind. So the next 100 days, Louis the 18th assumes the throne. He's really unpopular. The peasants think he's trying to undo the revolution. Look at him. He's a Louis. We don't trust him. And once Napoleon sees that the new king isn't popular, just like Justin Timberlake, he brings Napoleon back. Napoleon escapes from Elba in March of 1815, and he marches into Paris, and people are like, yay, we love you, we love you. All right? They love him because he was a popular emperor. They're not thinking about why you lost all these battles, you killed all these men. Once he marches through, thousands of men join the army, and within days, he's the king of France again, or the emperor of France. So Louis the 18th, out. Napoleon, in. The Allies, the Burps, the British, the Russians, the Prussians, the Austrians, the Swedish, they see all this and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Not a good idea. Every day they're hustling. And they prepare for battle near Waterloo, Belgium. Napoleon attacked. He said, we're going to attack here. But the Allies outnumbered him. And the 100 days in the Battle of Waterloo is the last part of Napoleon's bid for power. If you have a moment in your life where it's an epic fail where you give up, you would call that my Waterloo. All right? That moment when you realize that all is lost and you give up. Like I gave up my singing career a few years ago. So they decided to send him far, far away. He's shipped to St. Helena, which is in the South Atlantic. He lived alone in exile for 6 years and died in 1821 with stomach problems. There is some theory that while he was in St. Helena, those stomach might have been problems, might have been something called poison. That they were slowly feeding him something that they knew would kill him. Much controversy about that, but it's a cool little anecdote. All right, so Napoleon summed up. Genius, brilliant, risk taker. And the question is, were all his wins worth all his losses? What did he win? He won land. He had these great military achievements. But like we saw in Russia, his losses are a lot of dead people. Should be St. Helena. Ego. Napoleon's first mistake, Continental System. Second mistake, Peninsular War. Third mistake, invasion of Russia. Can you do these four? 1, 2, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job, guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.